Okay, we are recording now. All right. We have, I sent the draft minutes out from last month. Has everybody gotten a chance to take a look at them?
Yes.
Anybody have any corrections, questions?
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. I'd like to approve the meeting minutes as is.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who's that?
I just beat Thomas, but he can have it if you want.
Okay. I can't always see who it is when I get the screen on like this. So, okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. This is the month of the year that we decide to adopt our dues for the year for the member municipalities. As you know, under the intermunicipal agreement, we make a proposal in January. Every member has at least 60 days to review it. If they don't wish to continue with the committee, then they can withdraw. And if they don't, then they're committed for another year. I haven't gotten any indication from anybody this year or any past year that anybody wished to withdraw. So I'm assuming that there is not. Just to remind everybody, the dues are that we proposed are the same as last year. In fact, they're the same as the last several years. And they are basically for the county, $33,575. For each of the towns, $10,900. For the city of Glen Cove, $8,150. And for each of the villages, $54.45. We also, work with all the members. If your fiscal year is not a calendar year, even though these are calendar year dues, we can wait till the start of your fiscal year, which basically affects the villages. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the dues as recommended, unless there's any questions.
This is Dan Fucci. I'll make a motion to approve the dues for year 2021.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion carries. As you remember, we did apply to the Long Island Sound Futures Fund for our 2021-2022 monitoring program. We were awarded a grant of $75,000. That contract was finalized since the last meeting. So that is basically nothing more for us to do except carry out the program. However, the grant, the $75,000, does not cover the entire cost of what we normally do. To continue the program as we did last year, the total cost for the core program would be $89,000, and then for the winter monitoring, $5,000, for a total of $94,000. Last year, I was able to apply for and receive $5,000 to cover the winter program from the Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District. They do have funding available again this year, and I intend to apply for that. But I think we need to have a motion to approve the $19,000 additional that it would cost to do the program as we have been doing it. And I can tell you that we do have sufficient funds in order to do that. So if somebody would like to make a motion, we can approve that. Are there any questions?
I'll make the motion.
Adam?
Adam Levine, yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Kevin with the town of North Hempstead will second the motion.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sorry to keep.
No,
A lot of suspense.
I forgot I was muted, so
yeah.
I missed my chance.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries on that. And related to that, in order to carry it out, we need to enter into an agreement with the Coalition to Save Hempstead Harbor. The agreement is done by the village of Seacliff, which is who the grant goes to, on behalf of us. So we need to, I need to ask for a motion to authorize the village of Seacliff to enter into an agreement with the Coalition to Save Hempstead Harbor for the 2021-2022 monitoring program in the amount of $94,000 on our behalf.
That wasn't the 1.9 trillion that showed up on your screen, correct?
Did that show up on my screen?
Yes.
Oh, no, it's not. Doesn't cost that much.
Okay, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. Sorry.
Say again, Kev.
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. I'd like to authorize the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee to go into contract with the coalition. Is that correct, or is it with the
authorize the village of Seacliff to enter into an agreement on our behalf with the coalition?
Right, what you said.
Thank you. A second. We got more
A second. Tom Powell.
Tom, thank you, Tom.
Got my mic on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and then we've just received in the last couple weeks notice that the Long Island Sound Futures Fund is about to announce, they will announce in April, the next round of funding, which we can apply for our 2022 to 2023 monitoring program. I know it's kind of crazy with the years. Even Carol and I continue to get confused as to which year, which grant we're talking about, but that's the way they operate. And good news is that up until now, they've always had a rule that you can't apply for that to that same fund for the same project for more than 3 consecutive years. We've been able to find a way around it most of the years. There were a couple years, 1 year that we were denied, and another year just because of their change in their procedures. There was a gap year when we didn't get funding, but they have told us now that they have removed that restriction so they can fund us every year if they want to. In the past few years, they have offered up to $100,000 for embayment monitoring programs. We've applied for the $100,000, and for the last 3 years, they've given us $75,000. It seems like that's, what they wish to give us. We don't know what's going to happen this next year, but I would like to ask for the, approval of the committee to apply for the maximum amount that they will allow for embayment programs in this next grant round.
This is the Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. I'd like to go ahead and give the approval for the committee to go for the maximum allowable funds available for the Long Island Sound Futures Fund.
And I'd like to second that motion. Stephen.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Eric, I have a quick procedural question.
Sure.
Do you need a complete consensus to carry a motion, or just a majority, or how does it work?
First we need to have a quorum at the meeting, majority of our voting members, and then we just need a simple majority of those who vote.
Got it. Thanks.
We've rarely had, it's usually, we usually have complete consensus on what we vote for. So doesn't have to be. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Nope.
Hearing none, that one passes. I think that's the last resolution we need for tonight. On the Marcelino grant, you'll recall that we were able to get a 1-year extension on that, which will take us to the end of this year. Of the 250,000 that was appropriated for the 3 protection committees, which we are administering on behalf of the 3, about half of that money has been spent. Nearly all of the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee's shares have already been spent and you know, been reimbursed. We do have about $7,000 left for Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee that we need to spend by the end of the year. So we're going to be looking for figure out how to spend that. But we did have a claim that we put in late last year for reimbursement of $40,840, and that was approved and was paid. We received it last week, so that's in our account. So we're pretty much up to date with being reimbursed for everything that we and our partners have spent. So that's good news. Excuse me. The next item on the agenda is something new. It's basically arose out of a call that Carol DiPaolo received from Congressman Suozzi, who was concerned about the report card grade that Hempstead Harbor received in the Save the Sound 2020 report card, and wanted to discuss what needed to be done. Carol and I, you know, talked over what we wanted to get out of that the meeting with Suozzi. We decided to, you know, come up with a few specific asks that could, you know, we could ask of him. Those specific asks were $2 million in federal funds that could be used by Nassau County to supplement the grants for the septic program, septic system installation program, which would essentially allow these nitrogen reducing septic systems to be put in at little or no cost to the property owners. We also asked them to continue working on to amend the IRS code to eliminate the grant proceeds from being considered income to the recipients of the grants. Also to include wastewater in any upcoming federal infrastructure bill. And finally, we asked to send a letter to the Long Island Sound Study, asking them to find a way to permanently fund embayment monitoring programs without the need of having to go through you know, competitive grants every year and not knowing whether we're going to get them. Subsequent to that, so a meeting was held on February 19th, but Representative Suozzi was unable to attend and I had a conflict. So Carol and the coalition met with the staff of Congressman Suozzi. And following that meeting, Carol and I discussed the best way to follow it up. And we decided that the best thing to do is try to get joint letters on all the items except the funding source for embayment monitoring, and proceeded to draft those letters, sent them around to different organizations, other protection committees, county executive, other organizations, environmental organizations. And we were able to get 8 different organizations to agree to sign on to the letters. But in that process, we learned that the Nature Conservancy had also been dealing with Congressman Suozzi's office for the last several months on many of the same issues, but on a larger scale, you know, for all of Long Island and on a larger financial scale. And they were talking hundreds of millions of dollars, or at least $100 million. We then found out that that apparently under the new Congress, each member of the House will once again be able to submit a number of earmarks under the federal infrastructure bill, which is slated to begin debate right after the COVID, the $1.9 trillion bill that was just passed. So that's about to start any day now. And because of that, I think they're talking about each member would have 10 requests that they could put in. We felt that it was best not to waste those and not to have two different groups asking for basically the same thing and using up more than one of his requests. So we decided to coordinate, and Swazi's office suggested that we wait until probably the 14th or so to submit those letters. So that is a little bit up in the air now as to who would be the signatories, because obviously the Nature Conservancy is reaching out a lot broader than we were in Nassau County. And we think it might be good to get the two counties both to sign on to this letter. But it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity to get the money that's needed for addressing the septic issue and the nitrogen on Long Island. So stay tuned on that. I don't know, Carol, do you want to add anything to this?
No, I think that's about it, except that in addition, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that later, but the letter to the Long Island Sound Futures Fund that we had sent, essentially a template for the congressman to send. And I just tonight had sent an email to one of his staffers just to let them know that we had just found out that there won't be any prohibition on consecutive years of funding from that. Because in the letter regarding the Long Island Sound Futures Fund, we listed all of the problems, that are involved in filling out the application and then waiting to hear whether funding was available or whether we'd even be precluded because of that rule that was in place about consecutive years of funding would not be eligible, more than 3 would not be eligible for further funding. So I gave them the update on that. Haven't heard back. I was supposed to hear back anyway, just, on an update on that letter at least. So.
Great, thank you for doing that. Okay, so I mean, that may, the other aspect of that is when we were discussing with the Nature Conservancy, they felt asking for $2 million for federal money to go towards the Nassau County Septic Grant Program was too little an ask, that it would be better to ask for more money. And so I ran that by Nassau County. They suggested $4 million. Nassau County is fine with asking for $4 million. So when we do get around to this, we're going to be asking for $4 million to supplement the state grant money for the septic replacement program. Okay, moving on. As you may recall, maybe some of the new members don't, but the 3 protection committees began several years ago having an annual meeting, not only to network, but to share resources and to talk about important topics that we all face. And since then, some other organizations have joined in, including the Setauket Harbor Task Force and the Peconic Estuary Protection Committee. So we've been talking, we didn't do it last year because of the COVID situation, but this year we talked about reviving the joint annual meeting, doing it in May virtually. And it seems that May 20th worked for all of us, and it would be in the evening, probably 7:30, somewhere around that time. And we haven't zeroed in on the topics or speakers yet, but some of the suggestions, a couple of the suggestions were climate impacts and then environmental justice. So if anybody has any ideas of what they would like to hear about, please let me know. I can relate it to the other organizations and we can put this together. Also, Coalition Safe Hempstead Harbor has been a partner in that also. Okay. And another thing that's it's not on the agenda because this just came up in the last day or so. There is another source of grants that's the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is offering, and I attended a webinar on it today. It's potentially a large amount of money aimed at coastal resilience. It's called the National Coastal Resilience Fund. And it basically applies to the coastal areas in the United States. And they have $34 million available and generally offer, 30, 40 or so projects a year. So roughly about $1 million or so per project is available. I can send a summary out once I put it together if anybody's interested, but it requires a one-on-one match. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's what they're really looking to see. It's basically, there's four priorities that they want that you can choose from to apply. The first is community capacity building and planning. And it's basically to do a site assessment and a preliminary design I'm sorry, I'm confusing two things there. The first one is community capacity building and planning. And that's to basically come up with a comprehensive resilience plan. And they give you about 24 months to come up with that. The second priority is site assessment and preliminary design. They give you about 12 months to do that. And that's to come up with a preliminary design for coastal resilience projects. And that may include some baseline monitoring. The third is final design and permitting, about 18 months for that, where you have to come up with a 90 to 100% design. And that can also include baseline monitoring. And then the fourth is restoration and monitoring. And they give you up to 3 years plus at least 1 year of monitoring once whatever you put in place is completed. In order to apply for this, you have to submit a pre-application, which is due April 7th. And it's basically a pretty short description. You don't have to go into really a lot of detail, but, and then they decide out of all those pre-applications who they're going to invite to submit, a complete application. That will probably be done in mid-May. They will notify you if you're accepted to submit a complete application. And then by the fall, I think it's November, they will announce who will win, who will get grants, and that's it. There's a lot of other information, but it's basically they're looking to for projects that will address coastal flooding, habitats, and things like living resources, oyster reefs, that kind of thing that could protect the habitat and the shorelines.
Eric, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. This is a national award, right?
It's from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.
What I'm trying to get to is I'm gonna be competing with Louisiana for wetlands restoration money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So it was, and also the webinar that I was on today, which is about an hour and a half long, it will be posted. They said within 48 hours. So if anybody wants to watch it, you can go back and watch it. But it seems like, if you've got the right kind of project, there's a lot of more money than you normally see for grants like this. So, okay. That brings us to our water monitoring program. Carol, do you want to give us a little update?
Sure. For the 2020-2021 program, we're in the winter monitoring phase of it, which started in November. And so far, we've had 2 special sampling events with Fabco in trying to address the high bacteria numbers that we've been getting from the powerhouse drain outfall. The focus of the winter program is on that powerhouse drain subwatershed. So we were trying to see whether or not the media that's used in the Fabco storm drains would be able to handle what's coming out of that spillway at the bottom of Glenwood Road. And we did a second sampling because we were getting some inconsistencies with respect to the sampling results that Fabco had gotten from its lab and what we were getting from the county lab. So we did another set. We blended the water coming out of the spillway. We stirred it up and then pulled samples for both Nassau County's lab and Fabco's lab, and still had questions about why there were these variations in results. And it just seems to be something that happens with trying to deal with coliform bacteria, whether fecal coliform or enterococci. You can have these swings in lab results. So the thing we were trying to determine would be, what are the next steps? Do we go up? We talked with Dan Fucci about this, about the possibility of going up gradient of the storm drain and trying to see if we could get a sample at the next section, just to determine whether all those high numbers are that way, all the way up from where we're testing. So we really haven't determined what to do next. We can talk a little more. We had a similar conversation with Bob Kapowski at New York State DEC, because they're working on the TMDLs. So we had forwarded the data that we had put together that focuses on the powerhouse drain. We also showed what was coming out of outfalls that we periodically test now for Scudder's Pond and the outfall north of the pool that blends Littleworth Lane, water coming down that hill along with Scudder's. Because the data that we're getting will be important to how DEC looks at the sewer sheds now that they're using for, trying to create new TMDLs, and what percentage they end up determining that we have to diminish bacterial loading to Hempstead Harbor. So this
we are going to be discussing the call with Kapowski and the TMDL
later on. So we still haven't gone any further with Fabco from those samples. We continue the water, the winter monitoring through April before the core program starts up again. Then for the Unified Water Study, which is the other program that the coalition runs, we haven't actually received any official notification as to a startup for the season. However, we did get notification that they're dropping off the equipment that we are lent every year. And that's important for the core program because we use the same equipment, same methodologies that we use for the UWS, we use for the core program to make sure that there's more credibility in terms of the data that we're collecting for our normal program. Just talked with Steve about what's going to be happening in terms of flupsies in Tappan Marina this year. And Steve, were you going to talk about that?
Yeah, would you like me to talk about it? We're getting lots of shellfish. We're going to put them in the flupsies, same as last year, 3 different locations. First, we're going to grow them in our hatchery. Then we're going to move them once they're big enough into the flupsies. And Carol is going to monitor once again at Tappan for the nitrogen bioextraction, correct?
That's right. So once we found out that the seed stock is going to be available and the town is committed to doing this, we're going to seek a grant again to try to do the monitoring of Tappan Marina and see if we can see any differences as the clams are growing in the marina. So that would be great. Scudder's, let's see, the Scudder's Pond. We are.
If I could just ask a question real quick, Oyster Bay, where is your seed grow out place?
So we have a hatchery where we take the smaller product and we grow it there until it can sit on, until it's bigger than 2 millimeters. Then we put it into flupsies. So we grow them in marinas, and we have these docks where we have.
I know what the flupsies are. I know how they grow. I thought I overheard you saying, and I'm sorry, Carol, for interrupting. I thought you said you had a place where you grow them out, like a grow hatchery. Yes.
Right. Yes, we have a hatchery, and we have some tanks there that we could grow them out at, and then we also do the flupsies. Oh, it's in Theodore Roosevelt Memorial Park in Oyster Bay.
Okay. Just wanted to know what harbor was in. I forget, or I just didn't remember. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
So then we're at Scudder's Pond Weir, and I haven't heard anything more about what is being done. Have you, Eric?
I haven't heard either. I assume that the temporary is still holding up. I haven't checked it out.
Yes, it has.
I drove by there and it seemed like the pond was overflowing. I don't know how to put it. It was like
it's
going
been at a high
into
level.
areas. What's that?
It's been at a high level.
Yeah, it's very high.
Yeah.
I've never seen it flooding the sides like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop and look at the weir, sorry.
So, and then, so we're at Dan's part with the Nassau County 9-element plan.
No, I don't think so. I want to talk about the.
Oh, the TMDL. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the TMDL.
Mm-hmm.
So Carol had set up a meeting with Bob Kapowski from DEC, so we could all be updated on the status of the TMDL, the total maximum daily load for shellfish pathogens. We had the meeting on March 4th. Bob is the one that's the honcho on developing the TMDL. He was very happy with the process that they have for organizers. They have a very well organized process. The TMDL determination will depend partly on the outcome of the USGS testing that was already done and completed for testing for bacteria in groundwater and in outfalls using methods to determine whether it's animal, what type of animal, or human. And while they haven't finished their finalized their report yet, and this has been a while, it's still been in the draft stage. One interesting finding so far is that they did not find human bacteria in the groundwater. That was something that we did expected them to find because of failing septic systems, but apparently, according to the New York State Department of Health, if you have a 2 foot, of separation between the ground and the groundwater table, then that is normally sufficient to prevent the bacteria from getting in. Originally, we were told that Hempstead Harbor was the pilot area, but apparently there's more than one pilot now, and the USGS is working on 9 different harbors. The USGS was waiting, their preference was to wait until all 9 were done and then issue one report for all 9, but the state prevailed upon them to separate out Hempstead Harbor and do that one first. So we will probably be the first out of the box. They have also, the EPA has hired a consultant to go to all the MS4s, the municipalities, and get their most up-to-date sewer shed maps showing the storm drain systems, et cetera. And those will also play into how you define the area that's contributing into the harbor. Carol pointed out that even the most recent map that we received from the county showed an outfall that goes from Scudder's Pond through Tappan Marina into the bay, which no longer exists. And we know it doesn't because we've done dye testing, and people with knowledge know that was since been rerouted into the pipe that goes up the street and then connects with Littleworth.
It didn't go through the marina, Eric. It went across the beach.
Well, yeah, I meant the park. The beach. Okay. Yeah, not the marina. We determined it's important to know whether these maps are accurate because they're going to play a role in how they determine this TMDL. I suggested to Bob that if he can send me the maps that they're working off of for each community, I can try to get them to the appropriate people, within our membership that could review them and see if they're accurate. He hasn't gotten those maps to me yet, but he did send me a list of the municipalities that they were dealing with for the subwatershed maps for our harbor. And several of the municipalities on there don't appear to, I don't believe that they're in our watershed.
I noticed that too, yeah.
So I advised him of that, and I haven't heard back from him yet, because that's a big factor. If they're counting, the outfall, for the septic from, or the stormwater from municipalities that don't even end up in the harbor, that could, cause an error in the TMDL. So we're keeping an eye on that. In terms of the timing, it's always hard to say with the state, and they'll even tell you that. They have a lot of steps to go through, including everything has to be, before it even goes to the public for comment, has to go through the governor's office, and they've got to approve it. So with all that said, he's hoping that they might have something available for public review this spring. I'm not holding my breath. He did say that, noted that the new MS4 permit, which we've also been waiting for a few years, is expected to be different in that it will not contain numeric reduction requirements or retrofits, which is a good thing. So we're keeping an eye on all of this. I think this new TMDL will be better than the old one. We were one of the first to complain that the old one didn't seem like it was, reasonable in the way they, did the modeling. But so we're watching this, and I think crossing our fingers, hoping that this one will be a lot more realistic and workable for all of our members. That brings us to the 9-element plan. So Dan, you're the man on that.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Dan Fucci from Nassau County. I have a meeting tomorrow with the DEC for an update on the Nassau County's 9-element nitrogen reduction plan. I'm happy to report. I don't remember if I did last time, but there is finally a official contract between New York State DEC and SUNY Stony Brook, the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. So that is officially in place. So things should start moving a little more quicker now than they did in the beginning, while we were waiting for the contract to be fully executed between those two entities. As part of the 9-element plan, or prior to this plan, there was the creation of a Nassau County nitrogen loading model, and dovetailing that into the 9-element plan, we want to run some nitrogen reduction scenarios into that model, and I plan on sharing those in a email over the next few days with regard to what our foundation for the various reduction scenarios are. And I'm going to put an email with those scenarios. I'll tell you what they are now anyway, but I'll put an email together with those scenarios. And I will also throw out there if any of the stakeholders have their own thoughts on possibly adding a scenario or two on top of what we propose. The reduction scenarios that we plan on running into the model include what if we expanded the municipal sewer shed area? Also, if we upgrade individual septic systems not connected to a municipal sewer system to advanced nitrogen reducing systems, which is essentially a septic program. What if we diverted sewer outfalls that currently release into the bays to sewer systems that release to the ocean? Guess what? That would be Bay Park to Cedar Creek, which is in the hopper. That's on the South Shore. Reduce landscape fertilizer use will be pumped into the model as a scenario. And also stormwater nitrogen reduction in order to improve the MS4 system. We're looking to possibly run that into the model as well. So again, those will be thrown out there to the stakeholders in the next few days through a blast email, and also requesting or asking if anyone can think of any other reasonable strategies or scenarios as well. So that is where we are at the moment.
So Dan, the first one you said expand sewer shed area. You mean the area, sewage treatment areas?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And then also the second one would be the septic program, essentially upgrading. And, yeah.
I think that would definitely, if you can show, you know, by a model that, you know, if 100 homes put in these nitrogen reducing, you know, systems, it reduces the nitrogen by X%. You know, that's another selling point for the grant.
Absolutely. So, and ultimately, the 9-element plan itself is a selling point for future grants. It's definitely going to be something that will be assistance to us to get future funding.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask, Dan, we had submitted comments about the plan, if you remember.
Okay. On my meeting tomorrow, Carol, I will bring that up again with Dr. Goldberg.
Great, thanks.
I know it was initially held up for the contract issues, but now that that's resolved, I believe they may have brought somebody on to help out Dr. Goldberg with this whole program. So I'll inquire about it tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. And then you had sent out, was it another copy, Dan, you wanted to review by Monday?
What was that? The nitrogen loading model, I think I attached?
I'm trying to remember.
I know. I remember I sent out a previous email. I don't have it in front of me, so
okay,
you'll have to
I'll check. But it is. I think it was for Monday.
Yeah. Whatever I asked for, I didn't get any comments to this point, which I wasn't overly surprised. But I just wanted to at least put it out there that the program's moving forward again, and I wanted to share the nitrogen loading model to everyone again. I think I was asking people to review the model, and if they had any thoughts or anything, get back to me by mid-March. Again, I didn't expect much feedback from that, but perhaps this next email, there might be some more feedback.
Okay.
Relative to the scenarios.
Dan, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. Is this 9-element plan new, or, I mean, I don't know if I've really come across it yet.
The only thing I would tell you, well, Suffolk County has one. It's almost 1,000 pages, but they did it differently. They, I think they created it. It was that because Suffolk County had that whole nitrogen reduction push. I think they did a study connected to that nitrogen reduction push a few years ago. And then I think the DEC pretty much accepted that study as their 9-element plan. But if you look on the New York State DEC website, you might only find 3 other 9-element plans that were done in the state. So I'm not sure how long this process has been going on, but not many have been submitted. In upstate, I think they're done in the form of a watershed area. I think there's one, the Black River watershed area. It might be one with the Genesee watershed area. But if you look on, if you Google New York State DEC 9-element, you'll find, I think they have about 3 or 4 of these 9-element plans that are completed on that page.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out when Nassau County got on board.
Well, we got on board because we were asked to get on board by the state. because I
No,
believe
I just mean when. I'm trying to get a timeline.
I believe there was an initial stakeholder meeting back in 2017. At that point, it was to develop the nitrogen loading model. So it was somewhere in 16 or 17. There was a stakeholder meeting with everybody that we invited, and that was to create the nitrogen loading model that was attached in the last email blast. And that nitrogen loading model, once that was completed, then was the impetus to do the 9-element plan. We can't do the 9-element plan without the nitrogen loading model done first, which was done. So that was the first step.
Okay, so the 9-element is not completed yet?
Oh, no. That's what we're working on now. That's the
okay.
Nitrogen loading model is completed. Part of the 9-element plan, which is what we're in process now, which was a separate contract between SUNY, Solmas, and the state, is in part to run these scenarios into the already existing nitrogen loading model. So first the model was created in 2017-18, that was worked on. When that was completed, then they were able to start where we are now, the 9-element, Nassau County 9-element nitrogen reduction plan.
Okay, so basically, first of all, you get the science, you get the model going, and then you figure out what you're going to do with data from the model. Yes,
correct.
No?
And yeah, pretty. Yeah, that's accurate, Kevin. And also, there's going to be educational issues as part of the plan, funding, how some of these recommendations would be funded. So there's other elements of the plan too. But yes, right now we're really putting together, as you said, the data and running these scenarios.
Right, and then this 9-element plan will give you basically, to use an example, a feasibility study or a water quality plan or some kind of recommendations going forward from the data. Right,
and again, if you look at that DEC website, you'll see some 9-element plans that were completed upstate. They're in the 50 to 60 page range, not the 1,000 page range of Suffolk counties. So Nassau is obviously looking at a smaller document similar to what you may see on the DEC websites.
So, Kevin, so Stony Brook is preparing it for Nassau County, but my understanding is it will have recommendations for each of the municipalities in Hempstead Harbor, for example, with us, as to what can and should be done to
right, and will ultimately be part of it, yes. But first, we have to run these scenarios to help with that development. That's why, it's important that the stakeholder input is important, at least on my end, to make sure that stakeholders are kept up to date. Again, in the beginning, there was not much. We had that meeting in July, but things kind of slowed down because there was no contract. Now that there's a contract in place, I'm trying my best to keep the stakeholders' interest, and just let them know what's going on, and that they really need to be. One thing I would suggest. Go ahead. That they need to be part of the plan. Okay. That's all.
Well, one thing I would suggest in terms of scenarios to look at is that, for the last few years, there was a large stakeholder group involving so many different people to craft legislation on reducing the nitrogen level in fertilizer. So, it came close. The DEC had a proposal to do it. It never happened because there was not unanimous consent among all the different parties. And I guess both Assemblyman Engelbright and Senator Kaminsky didn't want to go ahead unless everybody agreed. And some of us have been working behind the scenes to try to make that happen, but it hasn't yet. But if it does, I mean, running a scenario that if we change fertilizer to, this lower level of, nitrogen, what would that alone do to reduce nitrogen level?
Okay, that's a good idea. Again, let me get the email out, the blast, and then you can certainly answer, so we keep things official. Right. But that is a good idea.
And if that modeling shows that, yes, if you reduce the fertilizer by blah, 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 you take care of 25% of the problem, that gives more impetus to getting the legislation passed.
Correct. Okay. Great.
Dan, I just have a question. I'm really sorry. I'm a little confused about this, but you're right. You sent out, excuse me?
So am I.
You sent out
Yeah.
the last email with a copy of the nitrogen loading model.
Okay.
And the date on that is February 2020. But wasn't the last meeting in 2019 for the 9-element?
No, we had a meeting in 2020.
In July.
This past July?
Yeah, that was the first kickoff. That was essentially the kickoff stakeholder meeting for the 9-element plan.
Okay, I'm getting confused as to whether it was in-person meeting or because everything was by Zoom, right?
Yeah, online. No, it was online. It was Zoom. I don't know if it was Microsoft Teams actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
So everything that's in, well, not everything, but the nitrogen loading model was used to create the 9-element plan. And Chris Gobler worked on both because in looking at the nitrogen modeling plan, the same things that we commented on in the 9-element plan, I'm seeing here.
The 9-element plan's not done yet.
Okay.
We're in the beginning stages of the 9-element plan. So you may have been, your questions, I believe, were, because like I just told Kevin, the first step was from, I don't know, 2017 through maybe 19, SUNY developed the nitrogen loading model. That's a separate document.
Okay.
Which you have. I think your comments were relating to that model. Now, in order to create the 9-element plan, we have to do data input and run different nitrogen reduction scenarios into the model. So the model is already created. Now we have to look at various nitrogen reduction scenarios as part of the 9-element plan, run those into the nitrogen loading model to get data, the relevant data.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, this is Kevin from Northampton again. Was the town involved at all? Because this is the first I'm really hearing of it.
I would have to look at
during the kickoff meeting of the 9-element.
Well, July 2020. I would have to look at the.
Okay, I don't remember, but it definitely could have happened higher up than me. I'm just trying to make sure that the town has participated or helped or provided information.
I can't imagine you guys wouldn't have been involved. But I'll double check the list.
I am the one environmental control specialist for the town.
Kevin, I believe I put together a summary of that meeting. I can send it to you. I may have listed who was participated. I have to go back. There's, from quite a while ago.
No, that'd be helpful. I'm just trying to make sure the town's involved. That's it. No more than that.
Okay.
All right. That brings us to the. We sort of addressed this already. The bacteria issues in the powerhouse drain. I know that. Carol, you mentioned, but we really didn't get into too much discussion on it about going upstream, up gradient, and with the assistance of Nassau County, getting into the storm drains and seeing if we can, get access to sampling and that kind of thing. The Fabco had recommended a certain type of pumping device that if we needed to, we might be able to use to get samples. So you want to discuss that a little bit more, Carol?
They had suggested, I guess it just came up in conversation actually, that maybe for some of their contracts, they had used a peristaltic pump to grab the samples where they're putting a tube down into the storm drain without having to lift the grate. But what I was interested in is whether we could possibly subcontract to them to actually do the job rather than by the pump, because, how many times would he use it unless it's something that, municipalities would use, that it would be shared. But for this particular issue, it would seem to me that if Fabco is already equipped to do it, you know, it would be great just to get a price from them. What would that cost? As we try to figure out what is going on, you know, with the water coming out of that storm drain. So, and we haven't gotten really any further with them.
I haven't heard from them. But just adding another wrinkle to this, I mean, I recently found out through discussions with the county that there is a fund called the Natural Resource Damage Program that DEC runs. And what they do is they take settlement money from different, you know, polluters basically, and then redirect that money for projects to improve, you know, the environment. In this case, with the recent settlement of the Grumman plume, apparently $35 million was added into this fund, and the state has asked the county to come up with some potential projects. So I suggested to the county that this might be a good project, you know, to suggest to the state, similar to along the lines of what Nassau County had done with Crescent Beach, where you've got a problem with bacteria, you know, polluting a waterway. You don't know exactly where it's coming from, and you want to look at what can be done basically at the end of the pipe, and what kind of technology would work. You know, is it feasible? How much the cost would be? You know, that kind of thing. So I did suggest that to him, and this could be part of that. And obviously you need a study, for, you know, before you implement it. So I haven't heard back. I don't know if Dan, if you've heard anything, but you know, I think that this would be a good use for those funds. And apparently the DEC has been pretty flexible in how they define you know, water contamination, whether it's and stormwater apparently has been approved in the past. But I was also on a webinar today with the Long Island Commission on Aquifer Protection, LICAP, and Brian Schneider from Nassau County did mention this fund to that commission. And several of the water districts were very interested in maybe pursuing this funding, you know, to deal with emerging contaminants like PFAS and that. So there might be a lot of competition for that 35 million, but, you know, I don't think we would need anywhere near the bulk of that. So
yeah, the county had an internal meeting on this this program, I believe, through the Grumman fund. And I can say that Powerhouse Drain was added to the list after Eric's recommendation to do a study similar, like Eric said, to Crescent Beach for that particular watershed area as a result of these bacteria issues. So when the time comes and applications are ready to go or eligible to be submitted, Powerhouse was discussed as being one of the grants that the county would apply for.
Not only would this, you know, help address this needed problem, which is probably, you know, the biggest issue we have right now in contaminants in the harbor, but it also ties in with the 9-element plan. It ties in with the TMDL that DEC is developing. Right. It also shows that we're doing, you know, concrete efforts to address the problem, which helps with the MS4 permits. It's a win-win-win all around. And the drainage system is, you know, both of those major roads are county roads. So it's a county drainage system that we're addressing, you know, so it makes sense for the county to apply for that.
Yep. So as soon as we know when these grants are eligible, we'll, that's what I'm told. It'll be on the list.
That's great.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
I want to ask Carol something, if I may.
Sure.
What kind of pumps, what kind of samples would they be taking with those peristaltic pumps you mentioned? Are they grabs?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Technically, you really would have to sterilize the tubing, which can be done for each sample.
I guess that's what they would have done for any work
Well, you never know.
Yeah,
That's what they
true.
should do. And
Yeah.
that means you gotta have tubing for each one. It's not something you would want to buy, I don't think. I mean, it's not a composite sampler, so they're much simpler, but still they're, finicky kind of things.
It would be much better if they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of bacteria, we can't seem to get off this issue. Glen Cove Creek. I think, Dan, you have something to report on the video of the outfall pipes.
Yeah, we CCTV'd the 15-inch pipe that runs from the back of the plant, almost from where was at the transfer station up there, where the city has their transfer station. There's the first outfall, the first catch basin from that point all the way around to the back of the plant by the sludge collection area, ran around the back of the plant all the way down the side where adjacent to the restaurant and out to the outfall. I reviewed the video and I have the report, and I shared some of the most relevant photos with Eric and Carol already. And essentially there's nothing remarkable when it comes to sanitary connections. There's no staining that would indicate that. There are no oddball connections that look suspicious. There is one or two connections that do come from the plant. They're 4 inches, and they appear to be determined that they are just stormwater from the roof runoff that are connected into the system. The pictures I sent to Eric and Carol were the last set of photos I believe I sent were directly in the vicinity of that, what is it, that little concrete pad there?
Off of the trucks, yeah.
That's correct. And there are, the report indicates, and my visual just shows there is some deposits in there, but I'm talking about pieces of debris and sediment deposits, but nothing that would indicate sanitary. You feel free to share those images with whoever you'd like, but that's where those particular images are from. The report does not indicate any leaking or leachate from sanitary.
I didn't understand the footage that was marked on those photos, Dan. So where it says 0.0 feet on.
Well, they measured essentially from catch basin to catch basin. That was one section of run. I'm trying to give an example where that's the sludge waste, the concrete pad is. There's a catch basin on either side of those. I believe it's 0.7, literally point number 7 to number 8. So it's catch basin number 7 to catch basin number 8, which that line runs right underneath that concrete pad. So when they enter with the camera, they start measuring 0.00, and then when they get to something they want to stop and investigate, that I don't know what it may say 4 feet in from that point.
Okay.
And then it goes down further, and then maybe it gets to 20 feet. That particular run, for example, I don't remember off the top of my head. It might have been 60 feet from 7.7 from catch basin number 7 to catch basin number 8. There was a 60-foot section that they TV'd in that segment. So when you're looking from 7 to 8, they start in 7, they go up the pipe, and maybe they get 4 feet in, and they want to. That's when you'll see the picture taken. So anywhere there was a photo taken was something that they wanted to look at.
Hey, Dan?
Yes.
It's Rocco. I'm sorry, did you say that the drain from the scale was connected?
No.
You know where the trucks were?
No, not what trucks. Were the ones that is.
That's not the concrete pad you were talking about that was connected?
The ones that you took the pictures of.
Yes.
underneath that concrete pad, there is this 15-inch line that runs adjacent to the pad. It's not connected to the pad. It's a separate pipe. But that was the area we wanted to concentrate on to make sure there was nothing connected from that pad into that pipe. And that is not the case.
Well, Dan, I think what we were looking at is not necessarily connected, but there may be because of the weight of the truck on that pad, it may have cracked the pipe so that if there's any leakage from the truck, it may get down through that crack into the pipe, and it doesn't take much bacteria to have a high number. And if you're saying that they saw sediment and debris in the pipe at that point, which I think I heard you say, then that means that's got to be getting in there somewhere. There might be a crack in that pipe that would also allow septic if there's a spillage in the truck.
There's parts of this line that have the sediment in it. There are different parts. It's a stormwater system.
Yeah.
So it could be sediment that's coming from the transfer station as a possibility. That's discharging into this pipe and sitting there. You know, this is a snapshot in time. So the next storm, things are moving around. This is only a snapshot in time. So,
but is that video able to see whether there's any cracks in the pipe above the that point?
That would be connected to the photos. If they saw cracks in the pipe, those would be related to the photos.
So you're saying that they didn't find cracks then?
Not based on I didn't look at every photo, so I'm not going to say that for every photo, but I definitely looked at the photos that I sent you relative to that pad.
Yeah, I did not. It was hard for me to make sense of those, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not an easy project, folks. It's taken a lot of time and money, and we're doing the best we can. But you know, I didn't see any cracks. If there were, they would have stopped the camera, and just like we did, there's a lot of examples where this camera was stopped along this entire line where we took pictures of everything, including a lot of mussels. So, I mean, every 8 feet, you have a joint in some cases in some of these pipes. You know, they investigated those. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I don't know where we go from here. I mean, we seem to have done all that we could.
I honestly think the county has exhausted their effort here. And I'm going to go further because I was there the other day to confirm when I was talking to Carol about catch basin 7 to 8, for example. I wanted to make sure before I sent you guys those pictures of that area that the report, and I went up there, I knew what I was talking about. I went up there and it was just after the rain. It was just the other day. Everything, and there's still runoff coming off that transfer station, and no one's going to convince me that that's not a big player here. I mean, we have, and Carol knows this, we have taken water samples of water dripping into a catch basin that is connected to that 15-inch line, and the bacteria levels were through the roof. Am I wrong, Carol? She froze, maybe.
Yeah. How many storm drains were there by that transfer station?
There was one on either side. Okay. I mean, I think there's a total of 11 storm drains that we have on the report as marked that you can access from the top, from going from the outfall all the way around, and including that first storm drain where we collected the samples that I'm talking about with Carol DePaolo, where the runoff, the rain runoff goes into that first storm drain, and we collected a sample. And I mean, when we collected a sample, the water was literally, we didn't go down into the basin to take the sample. It was water dripping into the basin before it hit the water. And that's what was collected, and the bacterial levels are through the roof.
Dan, so you're referring more to the yard waste site as opposed to the transfer station itself?
Yeah, I guess it's the yard waste site, whatever. I guess is it Winter Brothers?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that facility up there. Because all that runoff is still coming down there, coming down that hill where the access is. And getting
from the yard waste.
I'm sorry?
From the yard waste, not the transfer station, from the yard waste to that.
Yard waste, up gradient, the yard waste.
Yeah.
And there's the dumpster with the dog.
Right. Yeah, the yard waste. Yes.
Going up that pathway, the runoff comes off that yard waste, and it goes into our first storm drain that connects to this 15-inch.
And is that number 7?
No, that would be, I don't know, on my plan, it might have been, I don't know if it was 11. I would have to look at it. Okay. It was the last on the line. I don't know if it was 9 or 11. I think it was 9, actually.
Okay.
Because I think 10 and 11 go into the plant, actually. And 9 was the offshoot that, I guess that storm drain is underneath that 18-wheeler, that trailer. So
yes,
we TV'd that. That whole thing is TV'd. And even in there, that part of the pipe is that green PVC pipe. And there's nothing in there either from the pipe itself. I'll try to share those photos.
Normally sewer pipe.
Huh?
Green PVC pipe is normally sewer pipe. Right.
It's Carol. I don't know if you can hear me. I lost my connection.
I can hear you
now.
Okay, good. Dan, I got cut off when I was about to ask you if you were still waiting for a written report that accompanies the photos.
Well, I have the written report. I'll share.
Oh,
that.
It doesn't. Okay.
It's really not. It just says it has the images. It has that X amount of feet, sediment deposits, mussels, whatever they found. The photos were taken at areas of interest. So as they're going down the pipe, a lot of the pipe there's no cracks. There's no, even where Eric was talking about the sediment, that pipe in that section there was no cracks.
Mm.
They stopped again. There were 2 between the line that runs between the restaurant and the plant. I believe there was 1 or 2 4-inch pipes that were connected in, and we have pictures of that. But that ended up being runoff from the plant, the stormwater from the roof runoff.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, were you able to tell how close they were to the end of pipe where I see the stuff coming out?
I'm sorry, I don't.
In other words, I'm always at the end of the pipe, right? When these weird.
Yeah.
So, did the camera go all the way to the end to the creek?
I sent you those photos. That was like the first.
I know. I'm really sorry. It was hard for me to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to understand where in the pipe it was. At what length. I saw the feet marked off.
Okay. The first set of photos I sent you, I believe I would have to look. That might have been another 60-something foot run. So that started from a catch basin upgrading from the outfall. I think it's 60-something feet. I'll have to get the right numbers, but it went down to the outfall. I believe some of the images showed you can see out into the harbor, into the creek. Right, Eric? Didn't you get those as well?
Yeah, was it at the outfall with the muddy stuff coming out? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another thing I want to bring up. When we cleaned the inside of the pipe, we jetted it, each section before we TV'd it, to make sure we got a good picture of what was going on. And the interesting part is that lower section that goes into the outfall, and I sent the video to Eric and Carol, I mean, it came out as mud just from cleaning the inside of the pipe with this jet. I mean, it's muck. It's just material that's probably been built up for years. Mm-hmm. And when it came out as it almost looked like sewage. It's not though. It's just the muck material that builds up in the pipe. So we cleaned this pipe prior to even CCTVing it to make sure we got the best view we can get.
Right.
And that's why I made sure I videoed it, because I want everyone to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that wasn't from an illicit connection or anything. That was just the machine, the jetting the inside of the pipe clean.
Sometimes bacteria can just grow in the mud. So maybe, maybe now that you cleaned it out, there might be less just because of that.
That would be an interesting, something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, you guys. That vegetative area up there that Rocco was talking. I was up there the other day, and the water. I physically see the water entering this pipe, and we know based on me and Carol sampling it, there's high bacterial levels in there. There's more evidence the issue than anything from the plant, because I TV'd the whole plant line. There's nothing. There's no there. So But then I can tell you that we sampled water literally dripping into this catch basin where our pipe goes, and it's loaded with bacteria. I mean,
then maybe the solution is to put a bacteria filter at that storm drain. Probably wouldn't be that expensive.
Yeah, we might ask this. Yeah, well, so that's the Winter Brothers, but that's still a city-run facility. Is it?
Winter's Brothers run.
For
it's
the
not
city.
city.
It's a city facility, though.
Correct. So
Winters.
There might be a thought that, based on all this evidence, and we TV this line and we see nothing, and we know the bacteria running off that facility is proven. Maybe the city should pay for it. I mean, I think the county might have a justification to deal with the city that way after all this time through our MS4 program. It's our pipe, but it's being impacted by an upgradient source. I think there might be some possible, we can look at that. Maybe the city has to pay for the remediation.
Are they effective, those filters?
Well, that's what we were testing with Fabco. I mean, their statistics show that they're like over 90% of bacteria. We didn't find quite that much with the samples that we did. I guess that's more in the lab, but it certainly does to a very different extent.
The most effective solution is to keep it from going in the catch basin. Kevin from North said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we explored that as well. It's just it's a little bit of a complicated situation up there. If we don't allow the water to drain, it became a big pool. Yeah, it was just a bit more complicated.
But
so
it's still affecting the county MS4 system, and with the amount of money the county now has spent on investigating this, because there's a theory that the county has responsibility for this problem. I think now I'm in a position to say we've proven that it's not, and we need to look elsewhere.
The county's done a hell of a lot for the city in terms of Crescent Beach.
County gets a bad rap. We do a lot.
We certainly appreciate it, Dan. That's for sure. I'm just trying to think of what the most effective way of doing this is.
Yeah. Well, but weren't you working with DEC? Isn't the city working with DEC on a remediation plan for that facility up there? I thought the DEC was all involved.
There's a major future project, but I don't know how far along they are with that. So in the short term, maybe the filter, because last year when this was brought to my attention, I was trying to speak to the foreman, speak to some of the guys, the director, just to keep the water from going into the drain. And we could, if that was the case, we didn't know whether or not that was the source of the bacteria. But, I was told that we couldn't just keep the water from not draining down the road, because it was going to just create a pool up there. And there's multiple trucks from many different municipalities dumping up there, and we couldn't do that. So that wasn't going to be an answer, a solution. So maybe the filter.
One of the things that we had discussed, which never happened, because I guess Suez was going to work with the animal shelter to test the storm drains in the animal shelter to see if they are somehow connected to that pipe. But I don't think that ever happened. I mean,
I don't know, probably not. I could follow up with that, I guess. If you want to send me an email, Eric, and remind me, I will get it over to them.
Yeah, Eric, I was there last week for something else, for another project of theirs, and I asked them, they told me that all their waste goes into the dumpster that's on their property, and then Winters Brothers comes and removes it. They do not, they don't put their animal waste down the drain.
Right, but in the kennels themselves, they must have floor drains. Those floor drains have to go somewhere. So if a dog takes a crap in the kennel and they hose it down, where is that going? That bacteria is going somewhere.
Yeah. So
Maybe it's just
one
dry wells. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a discrepancy from when they were answering, but one of the workers that was there the longest, she told me there was a cesspool there. That's where it was going on the property.
Hopefully it is a cesspool. You know, I don't know what the groundwater table is there. I mean, it could be going into a cesspool, into groundwater, and getting into a crack in a pipe. It could be a million things.
But it's adjacent to the building. It's way far, really far away from all of these catch basins.
Yeah. I mean, if that building is not all that old, that building is probably like 20 years old, I think, because it replaced an earlier one. And I would think that if there's a sewer system, you know, that the building would have connected to a sewer system at some point, not just put in a cesspool.
Correct. And so they told me that's where the discrepancy came from, because when the new person answered, she said sewer system. And then the older person said, no. She goes, when the bathrooms for the humans, we flush it and there's a sewer system. But all the animal waste is contained within the cesspool.
It sounds like she knew what she's talking about, hopefully.
Yeah. She pointed to the spot. She said that's where it is right there.
Well, I'm going to say this one more time, and I'm going to let it go for now. I mean, we're making a lot of what ifs here, and that's fine. And I think the county certainly did their part, but Carol knows this. We have data that shows the bacteria from that upgradient site is directly impacting that pipe, right, Carol?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, it was through the roof, and you know, every rain event could be those types of numbers getting in there.
We'll have to take another look, maybe just, you know, wet weather, but really thank you for doing that, Dan. I mean, at least we can start eliminating some of the possibilities. Although it's, you know, next time it happens, then, you know, we'll really do, you know, immediate investigation upland to see.
Yeah, definitely. And Suez also, I believe, recently just updated their markouts. They did a lot of markouts in the area. So they, you know, as they took over, they wanted to confirm what's on their maps through a series of markouts, which is good. So
we'll just keep an eye on it and try to figure out what the source is. But maybe going back to trying to clear things up with the animal shelter.
Again, I'm going to go back to the samples. We have the data, the bacteria. I need to look at those. I know what the numbers are. They're very high, and we have that information. So we keep saying we need to know where the source is. That's true, and there may be another one. I hope not, but we certainly know one of them. We certainly know one of them. And again, I think I'm going to have to, at this point, talk to the county attorneys, you know, and look at our stormwater management program, where we have, I believe, a right to look at the upgrading sources and take action. I think that's in the stormwater I think that's in an MS4 regulation.
All right.
Well,
we'll see.
All right. Can we move on to the Nassau Septic program? As you know, this has been a few years in the making, like a lot of things, but it looks like we're very close to actually rolling out that program. The county, while the county still hasn't provided the funding to the Soil and Water Conservation District, because those funds have to come from the state to the Regional Planning Council, to the county, to the Soil and Water Conservation District. At least the last I heard, that money still hadn't come through, but that's not holding up the district from doing what it needs to do, and the county from what it needs to do. We're hoping that the program will roll out the end of this month. To do so, we've been working on, and I say we because I represent the Protection Committee on the Soil and Water Conservation District, and you know, when I say we, it's really Conservation District. I've been working with the county on a new website, on the online application, on the grant, the agreements with the county attorney, between the county and the property owner. But we do have a logo. We settled on the name of the program, and it's called the Nassau Septic Program. Septic is an acronym for Septic Environmental Program to Improve Cleanliness. And we are, very close to rolling it out. At the same time, the North Shore Land Alliance / Nature Conservancy, as they're working together on this, is going to be holding an outdoor septic vendor show on April 21st with a rain date of April 22nd at Fireman's Field in Oyster Bay, where they're going to have the manufacturers of the approved septic systems there with their systems so that people can come and physically look at them, talk to the manufacturers' reps, ask any questions that they might have about how they go in, what kind of maintenance is required, that kind of thing. And this will help, get people more interested and answer their questions. Because of even though it's outside, because of social distancing, my understanding is that you'd have to register and get a time slot to come, so not everybody comes at the same time. But we're hoping that it's, a good crowd that could come and really, come to see what's going on. So other than that, we're hopeful. Apparently about 43 people have contacted either the district or the county with interest in the grant program. And, there's money right now for 100. So I think we're on a good track once we get, everything online. So stay tuned for that.
Eric, what was the date on that?
April 21st.
Thank you. Day
before Earth Day. The flyers haven't gone out yet, but you will get them when I'll send them around once we have those. All right, so that brings us to the Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District. The district, as I alluded to earlier, the district is seeking funds for projects for what they call Part C funding. This is the third year that they will be offering grant funding. It's not actually a grant, it's funding for projects, conservation type projects that could go to either not-for-profits or local governments that would cost between $2,000 and $10,000. There's no match. The application is very easy. It's just a page or two. And then, in sometime in the next month or two, the district will select the projects and begin funding them. The projects would need to be completed by the end of the calendar year. And this is the funds that have funded our winter monitoring program and also Carol's Flupsy monitoring program. But you're all eligible. I encourage everybody to apply. I can send you the announcement if you would wish. And it's good. A lot of good projects have been funded through this, including the Cedar Mere greenhouse restoration. There's a lot that can be done. Well, that brings us to the Friends of Cedar Mere. Tom, do you want to give us any update?
Well, we are looking into putting some oyster growing bags, I guess they're called, which would be an educational tool. And I think it also helps with the filtration of the water and spawning more oysters. We have a lot of oysters in the lower bay, but this would be more of an educational tool because you can't eat them from down there. The other thing we got going is the greenhouse. I'm gonna apply for a grant from Soil and Water for a heating system for the greenhouse. And we have our mill project going. So if we're lucky, we'll have an actual working wheel by the fall. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. You know, delay is always possible. You never get ahead of schedule. It always drifts the other way. But so far, it's possible. And that'll be another educational tool, you know, about how water power was used. This is a later addition from the Roslyn mill, which was just a grist mill, but this one was used to power a workshop, water pumps, you know, whatever they needed. Everything short of electricity, which really wasn't around when they built this.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Municipal updates. Who wants to start? Should we start with Flower Hill?
I don't think we have any updates, really. Frank, you know anything that we should share?
Remember.
Oh, you're mute.
Okay, we became members of the New York State Climate Smart Communities. So we are looking at a couple of key points that we're going to try to meet for this year, including reducing greenhouse emissions, both in our village hall and our vehicles, increase energy security and reliability. That's something we're working with the local power company to make sure that we have a more sustainable power connection during bad weather. Starting to build resiliency. We're working on some general community goals, and we're supporting some innovative green technologies, which include the potential of a butterfly garden and a bee garden. And that's where we are.
Great. Okay. North Hempstead?
Yeah, Eric, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. We do not have anything really additional to update you on, with the exception of Roslyn Pond, which is moving through the winter months and finalizing all the details of what's been done, and then in the springtime doing some planting and closing it up. And Roslyn Pond is one of the major non-point source polluters that was listed in the Water Quality Improvement Plan. So it is a big notch in the belt of the town committee, I guess you could say.
Excellent project. Thank you, Kevin. Adam, anything in Roslyn Harbor?
No updates, no.
Okay. Rocco, Glen Cove?
So Carol is going to be happy to hear the barge is gone, but
Really?
Yep.
Yep.
You saw that.
I was happy to see that. You could see the sandbar again.
Yep. Yeah, it took them a little while, but they did take it apart and remove it. So that was a big plus. And I guess the other thing was the DEC approved our modification request for the East Island Gates project. So that's going to be rebid very shortly. And that's it.
Okay. Well, how is that the project changed? Is something eliminated or?
Yeah, they did a little less structural work on the bridge itself. They wanted to focus on the gates because the bids that came back initially were way higher than the estimates, the engineer's estimates. So they just did a little less structural work on the bridge and focused on the gates.
Sounds good. Steve, how about Oyster Bay?
We've been assisting with a kelp aquaculture study in Oyster Bay, where we have deployed kelp lines in one of our conservation management areas. And we're assisting with monitoring for growth, testing for biomass, and nitrogen bioextraction.
What was the last part?
The nitrogen bioextraction from the kelp.
Oh, bioextraction. Okay. And is that with Adelphi?
Adelphi is helping us, as well as the Oyster Bay Cold Spring Harbor Protection Committee.
I've seen the lines out there. Okay. Tom, anything to see, Cliff? Tom, are you there? You just stepped by. Okay.
I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Got me now?
Yep.
There's an enormous amount of work going on Prospect Avenue up near the top of the hill, which they must be tying into or preparing to tie into the Glen Cove line. They've got the Prospect is completely closed, and there's a mountain of soil, but unfortunately, I don't know what's going on exactly.
Have they finished the run to the Glen Harbor project?
They seem to be closing it down, but they've still got something going on there.
Okay.
I'm not sure that maybe they're just working on the road, fixing that up. Because most of the equipment is gone.
Good. Sounds like it's coming to an end.
Hope so. That road is getting worse and worse.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, this is Dan Fucci from Nassau County.
Oh yeah, Dan. Okay.
The soil and water agreement should be certified within the next few weeks. It's at controllers now. So once that's certified, the 2019 claims that are outstanding will be resubmitted to controllers for hopeful payment.
What'd you say? Next couple of weeks?
Next couple of weeks, we should have it. We'll have a certified copy.
Excellent. Okay.
Based on previous experience and where it is now, I see no reason to believe it shouldn't be certified in the next few weeks. And I will also, excuse me, ask Sue Van Patten tomorrow about the state funds, although I don't anticipate any big update. I will ask. That's what the Long Island Regional Planning Council, where
right. Yeah, they're giving it to the Regional Planning Council. Regional Planning Council gives it to the county. Yeah. The county gives it to the district.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Oh, I did want to mention that, remind everybody that on June 1st, your annual MS4 reports are due to DEC. That covers the period from March 10th, 2020 to yesterday. I will be putting together, our report to you so that you can include that if you wish in your report, all the things that we've done on your behalf. I should be getting that to you in the next week or so. But other than that, stay tuned for the Joint Protection Committee meeting on May 20th. And unless anybody has anything else, our next meeting will be April 14th. Anybody have anything, any other business? If not, thank you, everybody. We got a lot done tonight, and I look forward to, seeing you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.